BBC Radio Sussex.
Now, I have to say, last time we talked about the 4-day working week, it really provoked a very mixed reaction. Some people thought it was a brilliant idea, others not quite so enthused and not really very trusting of people being able to compress a full working week into 4 days. But it is an idea that we're hearing more and more about, and I'd love to hear from you. Do you work a 4-day week? Do you work flexibly? What's your experience of doing that? Well, let's hear now from a business in Brighton preparing to trial its own version of the 4-day working week, the 9-day fortnight. Let's talk to Carlene Jackson, CEO of Cloud9 Insight. Thank you so much for coming in to see me. Very good to have you in the studio today.
Good morning, Sarah. Lovely to be here.
I would imagine a lot of discussion and thought went into this because ultimately your business has got to work. It's got to be successful. So talk us through what went on before you came up with this idea.
For sure, yeah. It's hard not to notice that on LinkedIn and in the press, people are definitely talking about a 4-day week. And so we recently did an employee survey to sort of assess what values, what benefits did the employees value across the different generations. And one of the things that really came back was about 60% of the employees said, hey, what about the 4-day working week? And it wasn't on the table at the time, wasn't proposed, but it's so what we did is we had a look at that and thought, how can we put this in place and how could we make that work? Because before that moment, it's something that we've definitely heard about, but we haven't given it a lot of thought. And since then, we've been working with employees and working with them and our legal advisors on how can we make this work. And the excitement in the office is huge, as I'm sure you can imagine, and we're at the sort of early trial stage.
We're hearing more about this sort of work-life balance, about people being able to do their job just as efficiently, differently. But that idea of the Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 in the office, it's entrenched, isn't it? It's quite a difficult concept to, I suppose, in some ways fight against. And when we were talking about this before, a lot of people said, okay, all well and good, you're working a 4-day week or you're working your 9-day fortnight, but other people are still working the Monday to Friday. So if someone working that Monday to Friday wants to communicate with you, get in touch with you, that then raises issues.
It can do, and I think businesses really need to think about how do they engage with their customers and what's needed. In our business, we have, for example, a customer support team, and so they'll be working, we'll be splitting the team so that there'll always be somebody available to support clients. So you definitely have to sort of design what you set up for your business in line with what your customer needs are.
The idea of a 4-day working week used to be something that people sort of almost laughed at. The idea was such a ridiculous concept, but the pandemic has very much changed the way that we work. And I suppose if one good thing comes out of it is allowing people to have that work-life balance. And I suppose for you, that means that you not only attract very high caliber candidates to roles, but also keep people as well.
For sure. And I think in our industry, we're in the sort of tech sector. We're really impacted, I guess, like many sectors, around sort of hiring people. There's a shortage of talent, and anything that you can do to set yourself aside. And already, before we're at the pre-launch stage, but already we're finding it so much easier to hire people, to get attention, and that's going to have a significant impact in being able to attract talent to grow our business.
I suppose a lot of businesses, well, they spend a lot of money on sick pay, on recruitment, and if you can create a workforce where everyone's happy, they want to come in and they're not leaving, that is hugely beneficial to all businesses.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very expensive to hire somebody and to train them up, and so it's really important to think about retention, and also that when people are in the workplace, it's important that they're highly motivated, and that's why we put a slightly different spin on the 9-day week, which is every second Friday we're having a strategy, innovation and learning day, as well as community and charity day, because what we're hearing from more experienced candidates is they're really motivated to strategically get involved with the business and growing a business, and they want to make sure that their ideas about what's happening in the workplace are heard, as well as product innovation.
You say there's a real buzz and people are excited about this, and it sounds a ridiculous question because for most of us it's something we'd really welcome. But is there anyone that's thought, oh no, I don't fancy that, I'd just rather work the traditional working hours?
There's nobody in our business that's saying that, although we are making it very clear that this is discretionary. But we do have a small number of people who are parents like myself, and I think that they're already saying to me things like, wouldn't it be great that I have more quality time with my kids at the weekend because I can use that Friday for all the chores and things like that.
That's it, isn't it? If you're a working mum, you spend your Saturday catching up with all the notes that have come home from the school and packing school trips, and actually to be able to actually enjoy your weekend having that all done is a huge bonus.
My goodness, absolutely, yeah. I think it's important that employees have the time. For some of our employees, it might even be looking for a new flat to rent, or it might be test driving a new car or things like this. But it's really important that people have the time to catch up on their lives, and I think we spend too long working.
I went to a very inspirational talk actually at a local girls' school, and they were sort of talking about the future of women in the workforce, and they were actually saying that the most important thing for women, today's girls who are going to grow up and be parents, working parents, is flexibility, is allowing them to continue with those skills and not drop out the workplace. And although it sounds sexist, it's still women still largely get that bulk of responsibility for parenthood.
Yeah, I think that was brought to light as well during the pandemic, that there was a significant additional sort of weight on the shoulders of many mothers. And one of the things that we're doing in parallel with our new 9-day fortnight is introducing flexible working, where employees work core hours from 10 till 4, and then they can choose when they're going to work the additional hours, including the half hour extra that they'll do every day. Because if, for example, if you're a mother of very young kids, pre-school kids, they might be in bed by 7 and you would prefer the quality time with them during the sort of early morning and picking them up from school. And that's great for the kids too. And then you might decide, well, come 9 o'clock, I'll catch up on my work, for example.
So it's actually you're working around people's lives rather than people trying to adapt their life to work around the workplace. The only issue I can see with this is, are we moving towards a world in the same way as there was a bit of a divide between those who could work at home and those who couldn't? Do you think there's a lot of jobs that simply it would never be practical for flexible 4-day working weeks? Things like hospitals have to open, our schools largely run on a 5-day working week. Are we going to have a divide between those that do the 4-day working week and those that simply will never be able to?
Well, my husband's actually an airline pilot, and so yeah, I guess one of the joys from the pandemic is he's now got to work 3 weeks in every 4, and so he definitely has a flexible option. So I think that employers just need to be creative. If they're able to offer working opportunities for people to do job sharing, for example, why not be able to offer more flexible opportunities for how and when people do their work?
So this is all in a sort of trial process at the moment. What will success look like? How will you know whether it's going to continue or whether you go back to the old ways, which I would imagine you'd be very reluctant to do after all the work that's gone into this?
Yeah, I think there definitely would be some disappointment if we have to turn the clock back, but it's important that we do see it as a trial, because there are still not many organisations doing this, and how success is being defined is actually being jointly agreed by employees. But I think it has to cover quite a few different factors. It's whether we make sure that we can still sort of keep our employees engaged, whether it's not just a short-term joy, actually it has a long-term sustainable benefit to the business, and also whether the attraction of employees is still a sort of something that new employees want to come and work with us because we're more forward thinking, for example, whether the retention is good, for example. There's quite a few different ways of measuring the success, but I think that ultimately the employees it'll be about them and their sort of motivation and how they feel about their day-to-day life.
Well, really lovely hearing about it. Thank you so much for joining us on the programme. Nice to have you in the studio. I'm still getting used to people actually coming in face to face, which is actually a real treat for me now.
Quite a novelty.
Yeah, it's lovely. Carlene Jackson there, CEO of Cloud9 Insight, and of course we'll keep you updated. I'm sure you can come back and tell us how you've got on.
I'd love
to. Be nice to talk to you again.
Sarah.
Thank you for coming in.